Hello, hello. Welcome to 1-2 Punch. For those listening for the first time, I'm your host, Zorine. For those who are returning, welcome back. Glad to have you here. For those who don't know, 1-2 Punch is a show in which we talk about all things fighting games, every fighting game that's interesting, what's been happening lately, tournaments, player movement, games, patches, everything. So I'm your host, Zorine. I hope you enjoy your stay. And as always open for feedback as well. So you can hit us up on Twitter. My own Twitter handle is @Zorine. That's @ZORINE. Hashtag 1-2 Punch to talk about the show. Love to hear your thoughts. And but before we get into everything, you know what's about to happen. Hashtag stay humble. Shout outs to our sponsors. Pwn.gg is a site that provides all the odds and stats for esports betting, with its CSGO info being just the start. The site examines players, maps, and teams, everything to provide in-depth statistics for people who are betting on CSGO. And we have a special promo code for the listeners of 1-2 Punch. If you use the code 1-2 Punch, that's the numbers 1, 2, and Punch, you will get 50% off a 12-month subscription as well as a 2-week trial. So there you go. So as always, really grateful for the feedback. People who've been listening to the last 2 episodes of the show have been really nice and just sending really constructive feedback. So I appreciate that. If you have any feedback, questions about fighting games that you'd like me to answer, or you just want to express your feelings about the show, feel free to do so. All ears, open door policy here. Let's talk about the topics that we've got for today very quickly. We've got the Frosty Faustings 10 results. It was the first tournament for Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, so that would have been interesting. This week is also Dragon Ball FighterZ Day. Who's excited for that? I know I am. January 26th is when that game comes out. We'll get into more details about that in just a moment. Evo Japan is also happening this weekend. My gosh, there is so much happening this weekend. We've got Dragon Ball Z, got freaking Dragon Ball FighterZ, Evo Japan. The one that I've been talking, the big tournament that I've been talking about for weeks is finally here. Kind of feels surreal to be happening. Then we've got some Soul Calibur 6 gameplay. It happened at CES 2018 in Vegas. Going to go into more details about what we saw at that. Tekken Mobile is a thing that's happening. And finally, K-Brad announces his new team. So that'll be exciting. Very much looking forward to seeing more player movement this year as well. Of course, we spoke about this last week. Nakadu is a free agent, so I expect we're going to hear news about that soon. But we're well into 2018 now. Really exciting. We had our first big tournament from Frosty Faustings. And of course, now Evo Japan this weekend is going to be a big, big one. Which also begs the question, we haven't had any news of the Capcom Pro Tour quite yet, but I expect we'll be getting them soon. We were supposed to have a guest on the show today, but unfortunately they did have to cancel at the last minute, so fingers crossed, nothing like that happens again, but you just get me for today. Sorry about that. But no, welcome back, 1-2 Punch. This is the show where we talk about all things fighting games. Remember, hashtag 1-2 Punch on Twitter if you want to talk about it, ask questions. I'm always reading all the comments, of course. We are also now on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify, so you can listen to us there. Or you can watch this whole thing on YouTube. I'm Zorine. This is 1-2 Punch. I was going to say I'm 1-2 Punch, but no, I'm Zorine. And we'll be right back to dig into the news after this break. Welcome back to 1-2 Punch. I am your host, Zorine. That's some really funky tunes we got going. Love it. Now, we did have a interesting viewer question. Josh M. sent through last week a couple of questions, actually. He said, what are your thoughts on the basket of different formats for viewing fighting games recently? Do you think weekend-long open registered tournaments are the most enjoyable, or shorter one-day-long invitationals? Or pre-recorded reality TV, aka E-League? Which direction do you think the scene is headed in? That's an interesting question, I think, honestly, and this is probably one of the most cop-out answers, but a good mix of both is what the scene needs right now. We saw Turner come in last year with the E-League Street Fighter V Invitational, and I think that drew a lot of interest and a lot of hype. and the storylines there were great. Like we had the Wolf Crone versus K-Brad thing, and then, Gutex came out and became a meme with Future Tex, and there was just so much happening at that tournament and so many great storylines. And the way that Turner was able to present those made it so much easier to follow. It was very high production qualities. They, of course, shot or their video features surrounding players. I really enjoyed the Knuckle Do one as well. Like that was an insight into his life that we had never really knew about before, which I thought was really cool. So I think, there is a space for having those invitationals, but we can't exclusively have those because then how do new players come up, right? So that's why I think, these weekend-long open registered tournaments are still important to have just for players to have a way to get into the scene themselves or, for new talent to emerge. So I can't say that we exclusively should have one or the other, but I think a mix of these two both are the best way for the fighting game community to be elevated to the next level. So I think with the way the scene is headed in now, we're going to hopefully start to see more of these larger scale events, such as, E-League Zone Tournament. And I know that's not the way that a lot of people want to see it go, but I am all for more opportunities because more money coming into the scene means more opportunities for people, whether, you want to be a player in the scene or you want to work in esports, like it just benefits you. So I think that's where I stand on that. And lastly, he also said, do you have any fond arcade stories you'd like to share that make you miss the arcade atmosphere? Too many, my friend. I could sit here and talk about it forever, and then the entire episode would just be me talking about the arcade scene, and then we wouldn't have covered anything. So I'm just going to say I really miss arcades. I grew up in the arcades, and just yesterday I was thinking about like my first ever fighting game tournament in an arcade, and it was Tekken 5. I was like in high school, and it was just a different time back then. And like, it makes me kind of sad to think about like, none of that stuff was recorded, but I guess it all just lives on in my heart. Well, thank you so much for your questions, Josh, and really appreciate it. If you have questions yourself, for a listener, feel free to tweet them at me, at Zorine, or you can use the hashtag #12punch. I'm looking at all the tweets and all the feedback, so don't be shy. Moving on to tournament results. So Frosty Faustings 10 happened this weekend just past. It was the first tournament for Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. And it's also a major tournament, a big tournament for the Guilty Gear scene as well. So Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2 went down there. I think there was actually more competitors who signed up for Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2 over Street Fighter V. But again, that shouldn't be much of a surprise considering it is a major Guilty Gear event. And, with Evo Japan coming up this weekend, I imagine a lot of Street Fighter players are gearing up for that as well because it's, such a big tournament. But, Arcade Edition did just come out, and this is our first major tournament for it. Lots of character changes, nerfs, buffs all around. Looking at the top 8, it was actually a very good variety of characters. There were 2 Abigails, but other than that, like everyone else was playing, unique characters, which is really great to see. So let's go over the results. The Broken Alliance team, BXA Gaming, their players really showed up and did an amazing job. So in equal 7th place, we have Alucard, who was using Abigail, and SJ. Equal 5th place, we have Chris G, showing that he's still, doing stuff in Street Fighter V, and Brian F. Chris G was using Guile Sakura, and Brian F was using Balrog, and Alucard was using Abigail, and SJ was using Rashid. In 4th place, we have Punk, who was using Chun-Li and Karen. So Chun-Li's had a bit of a buff in Arcade Edition. Her normal's got a slight damage buff. Her second V-trigger is quite strong, so good to see Punk making use of her, but unfortunately he was knocked down to 4th place. So Punk was actually knocked into losers by Squall, who we'll get to in a second, in the round of 32. And then he had to fight the Cool Kid 93, who ultimately bested him. Punk seemed quite upset by the loss, but I think he should be proud. He played quite well using Chun-Li, made good use of her, and yeah, I mean, like, you know, we have Punk. Punk is, of course, you know, one who takes losses quite seriously. We saw him at Evo last year, second place. You know, he really wanted to clinch that win, but I think he should still be proud. And he, you know, came and showed why he's a Street Fighter player worth his salt. And then in third place, we have the Cool Kid 93, who was using Abigail, made really good use of him. So BXA's, you know, Squadron showing up in the top 3, because in second place, we have BXA Squall, who was using Nakali. Great final, by the way. If you haven't watched it, worth checking out. In first place, we have Mojo, who did some real damage with our Mika. So the grand final was in Nakali versus Mika, and Mojo took it 3-2, I believe, but Squall was not able to reset the bracket. So I think it was a bit of a comfortable win for him. He had some margin for error. But it was interesting watching that final because, you know, our Mika's new V-Trigger, as most people know, or if you haven't seen it, her new V-Trigger summons Nadeshiko, who comes out with a chair and runs out and kind of like whacks the opponent and then throws the chair. And it's a real interesting V-Trigger. I personally think it's exciting and hilarious to see because it's like it's so much action on the screen, and it caused a lot of grief over the weekend in general. Actually, a lot of players seem to be eating it, or like, you know, because I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, can he control the direction that she comes out in? So can the player control the direction? Sorry. So yeah, it was just real interesting to see Mojo make use of Mika's new V-Trigger. I think it's a really strong addition to her arsenal, and the way he made use of it was really great to see. And it was just funny, just Nadeshiko running out with the chair. I mean, like, you know, her first V-Trigger is also quite hilarious to me, but anyway, I digress now. So, yeah, so Arcade Edition, you know, seems to be shaking things up a bit. You know, that being said, though, there wasn't a lot of international or representation at this tournament already, I don't think. I know, like, you know, the Japanese players are probably prepping for Evo Japan, which is going to be just this crazy battle. I'm getting excited just thinking about it, But yeah, so that's the results for Street Fighter V. I want to say, I do also want to give props to Squall, who placed second. I say that, you know, this tournament was such a good run for him, and he played amazingly. He should be really proud. And I think almost, you know, like this was like his breakout major, you know, like I think he's going to do a lot of good things this year. So keep a lookout for that kid. Squall. So in Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2, there was actually more registered entrants for Guilty Gear than Street Fighter V, which should not be a surprise, I guess, seeing that this is a major Guilty Gear tournament. But to go through the top 8, so in equal 7th place, we have R Kappa's Kizzy K, who was using Sin, and Fu, who was using Kumhae Hyun. Sorry, like butchering that Korean pronunciation. And then equal 5th place, we have GC, Yoshi 13, and Deb. So Yoshi 13 was using Bedman, and Deb was using Soul. In fourth place, we have Lost Soul, who was using Elfelt. In third, Doran 2K was using Jam. And in second place, 1UP's Peppery Splash took that position with Johnny. And first place, Bjorn, Son of Bear, won with Chip. Congratulations to all those entrants who placed in top 8. You know, this is a major Guilty Gear tournament. Could not have been easy. That being said, also excited to see what kind of Guilty Gear action happens at Evo Japan. I know there's a big Guilty Gear scene. And on a side note, Sonny Fox also showed up there. He took out the Injustice 2 and Skullgirls tournaments. And Chris G won the Third Strike tournament, the UMBC 3 tournament, and the Ultra Street Fighter 4 tournament. All the throwbacks. But more of that later on. We'll be right back after this break. Hello everyone, welcome back to 1-2 Punch. Man, I love that song. Yeah, Weekend. Anyway, so Evo Japan 2018 is coming up. First big Evo in Japan ever. It's going to be crazy, of course. We're going to see more Arcade Edition action. Really looking forward to it. I imagine the Japanese players right now are just like going bananas practicing. Do want to point out this interesting thing I saw on Twitter. So the Japanese community or players have released their tier list, their character tier list for Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. I imagine like they, collaborated and pulled together their thoughts. And this is just based on the first week of playing the game so far. And it's really interesting to see this. So I'm going to read out the tier list, go over it quickly. So in S tier, they've listed Rashid, Abigail, Birdie, Guile, Akuma, and Cammy. We all knew Cammy was going to be there, right? In A tier, there is Colin, Urian, Mika, Nikali, Laura, Menat, Dictator, Zangief, Karen, Ibuki, Boxer, and my boy Ed. That makes me happy to see. In B tier, it's Nash, Chun-Li, Fang, Dalsim, Sakura, Ryu, and Ken. Poor Ryu. In C tier, it's Jury, poor Jury, Zeku, Alex, and Claw. So there you have it. There is the tier list from the Japanese players posted after the first week with Arcade Edition. Of course, this probably is going to change a bit, especially with Evo Japan coming up. But a lot of people responded that they thought this tier list was quite accurate. So yeah, it remains to be seen though. Quite interesting that this is what they've come out with already. So Evo Japan is happening this weekend. I talked about it every week up until this moment. Hype, hype, hype. Happening January 26th to 28th, sorry. The brackets have been released. Everything's there in a Japanese standard time. The tournament itself will be streamed live on Twitch. So twitch.tv/Evo. And English commentary has been confirmed. They're flying some English commentators out there. So, we're going to see some familiar names, familiar faces there commentating the tournament. The finals day schedule for the Sunday of Evo Japan. And this is all in Japanese Standard Time, so you'll have to convert it to your respective region, wherever you're based. But the first tournament up on the finals for Sunday is Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. That's at 8 a.m. Japanese Standard Time. That's what kicks off the day. And then at 12 p.m., the Tekken 7 finals will be happening. Then at 3 p.m. JST, Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2 finals will be happening. And then at 6 p.m. JST, the Street Fighter V finals will be airing live. So that's quite, off the top of my head, that's quite late in the US. It's either like really, really late or really, really early. Because I know in Japan, like when they wake up, it's kind of the end of our day here in the US. So Super Smash Bros. For Wii U first, then Tekken 7, then Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2, and then the Street Fighter V Arcade Edition finals. But good luck to all of our representatives from the West over in Japan. I know it's super cold in Tokyo right now, and it's actually snowing, which never, ever happens. It's very rare. People are losing their minds there. But stay warm, stay healthy, play well, enjoy yourselves out there. I know a lot of people are excited to be there for the first time as well, so very envious. I remember my first trip to Japan. Go enjoy the arcades; it's amazing. And just check out that Sagat thing that I talked about last week. So City of Saga was having a promotion, Street Fighter 2 crossover promotion, featuring Sagat. But there's a pop-up shop in Ginza, Tokyo, which is happening now. So if you happen to be there, check it out. And best of luck to everyone there. Really looking forward to the matches. I predict, these are my predictions. I think Street Fighter V top 8, we're going to have some unknown names. Like, we're going to have people we have never even heard of before. That's what I think is going to happen. And super excited to see it. Next up, of course, this weekend, not only is Evo Japan happening, but Dragon Ball FighterZ finally comes out on January 26th, Friday. That's right. The game is out for PS4, Xbox One, and PC on January 26th worldwide, except if you're in Japan, unfortunately, it comes out on February 1st, so you get a little bit later. If you're interested, there is a collector's, with a Z, edition for those who pre-order. It includes a 7-inch statue of Goku, a steelbook case, artboards, and the game. And if you haven't picked up a pre-order yet, those who pre-order the game will get codes to unlock Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta in the game. But if you haven't pre-ordered, don't worry, it's okay. Like, you can still unlock those characters later on. You just need to complete like challenges in the game, or you can unlock them using Zenny, which is the in-game currency in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Bandai Namco also confirmed the PC spec requirements. So if you're thinking of picking up the game on PC, if you have an older PC, the game will probably run just fine. The requirements aren't too hefty, I want to say. Just standard Windows 7, 8, or 10, 64-bit operating system, Core i5, 4 gigs of RAM, Radeon HD 6870 or a GeForce GTX 650 Ti graphics card is the minimum requirement. Recommended requirements are a Core i7, 8 gigs of RAM, or on the graphics card front, if you have a Radeon HD 7870 or above, or a GTX 660 or above, then your PC will probably run the game just fine. The reviews are already out for the game as well. Really pleased to see, that the game is scoring very well. GameSpot gave it a 9 in their review in progress, and IGN gave it an 8.5. All of the reviews that I've seen so far for the game have talked about how accessible it is. So it seems that the system, it has supposedly, and I say supposedly because I actually haven't been able to play the game before release yet, but the combos can be executed by, like, you get like very simple combos that you can achieve and do just by mashing the light or heavy attack buttons. So, you know, like, even if you don't know much about fighting games or you don't consider yourself a good fighter, like, you can still do cool things in Dragon Ball FighterZ. So that's really cool to see. For those of us who are a little bit more hardcore with fighting games, don't worry. Everything I've seen so far say that there is room for depth and complexity in the game as well. It's not just, you know, the casual fighter game. You know, the reviews I've seen have talked about the room for depth and complexity in the game. Bandai Namco also released a gameplay trailer recently that showcased the new character, Android 21. So she is a new character designed exclusively for Dragon Ball FighterZ. The series creator, Akira Toriyama himself, designed her. And for months, we've seen like her art concept and appearance. You know, she looks like a lab scientist or something, got her glasses, got like a white coat. But this new trailer that they released recently showed a completely different side of her. She kind of looks evil. Her evil side, I guess, if you will. Her appearance kind of looks like that of the Majin race. So like Majin Buu, you know, that pink skin with like the evil, like black eyes with the red pupils, and like she's got that pink like long tail thing. It's kind of cool. Like when she was doing attacks and stuff in the trailer, like she was making use of that, so that was pretty cool to see. I wonder if her evil appearance is like a different, like totally separate character to her good appearance. You know, it's kind of like evil Boo and good Boo, but this is like Android 21, so she's like an android but also a Majin. I don't know, it's really weird. Apparently, she plays a big part in the story. Real curious to see how that turns out. She will be an unlockable character in the game, so is part of the roster, but won't be there when you first pick up the game. But yes, Dragon Ball FighterZ out on January 26th, and it looks like there's a lot of Easter eggs in the game that throw back to the anime. So really hyped for that game. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be traveling when it comes out, so I'm kind of sad that I won't be able to pick it up on day one. But what can you do? And hopefully, you know, we see a lot of interest in the competitive side. I know Bandai Namco hosted some exhibition like tournaments. You know, recently Dominion played in it, and it was just reassuring to see that because it means that they acknowledge there is a competitive side to the game and potentially we'll see tournament support from the publisher side. So fingers crossed for that. Moving on to the next bit of news, Soul Calibur 6 gameplay hands-on at CES was available. So if you went to CES 2018 in Vegas this year, you would have been able to play Soul Calibur 6, which is really cool. I'm envious. CES, for those who don't know, is the Consumer Electronics Show. It takes place in Vegas every January. This year's was on January 9th to 12th. And I would say it's like the E3 of tech. There's like a lot of different tech companies there showing the new smart whatever, like smart fridge or smart lamp, or I don't know what the next smart thing's going to be. But more importantly, Soul Calibur 6 was there. So there is some footage floating around online. They did have some setups there, but we'll talk about that. Sorry, we'll talk about that in just a second after this break. Soul Calibur 6, get hype. Man, these music choices this week have been great. Shout outs to the producers. We're back. 1-2 Punch. That show on the radio or podcast and YouTube if you're watching there, which is about fighting games. I am your host, Zorine. You can find me on Twitter at Zorine. That's at Zorine. We are also, this show is also available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, if you're so inclined to listen to us there. Or you can check us out on YouTube and you can watch the video version of this. So just before our break, I was talking about Soul Calibur 6. Feel the burn in your soul. Yeah. So the game was available to play at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, which took place January 9th to 12th. Some people did record footage. It's available on YouTube. I checked it out. Looks interesting. So the setup there, they had Razer sticks, which is actually, legit sticks to play on. And attendees could play either Mitsurugi or Sophitia. And the game will actually also be playable at Evo Japan. So if you're going to be at Evo Japan in Tokyo, you can get your hands on the game there as well. And hopefully we'll see more footage surface from that. But based on what I saw, it seems like they brought back a lot of the core, mechanics of what made Soul Calibur. So the ring out system is there. It's back. You can knock your opponent out of the ring. Spacing is important. Footsie is important. Soul Calibur's system, the reverse edge, that's back as well. Sorry, no, I'm totally thinking of the wrong thing. Reversal edge, it's a new attack and defense battle system that they're bringing in for Soul Calibur 6. So reversal edge is this feature that when it's activated, it's possible you can continuously defend against your opponent's moves and then kind of turn things back against them with like a counter attack. And then when you actually land a successful reversal edge, it'll go into like a little movie scene cinematic thing with and I quote, an intense presentation is what they said. Equipment destruction is also back. So the match that I saw, as the characters kind of wailed on each other with weapons, their armor would shatter and they get slightly more undressed. So that's the thing that's happening as well. But overall, the game looks super slick. Really excited to see who they announce returning to the roster. I know there's a lot of fan favorites out there, a lot of people calling for their character to come back. Bandai Namco has been very busy lately, so fingers crossed we see more of that at Evo Japan. There's no release date yet for Soul Calibur 6, but we know it's going to be coming out this year. They said 2018. And it's wow, what a year for fighting games. What can I say? Now, I say Bandai Namco has been busy because they literally just announced that they're having another open beta for Dragon Ball FighterZ. This one is exclusively for the Xbox One player base. From what I saw, I think the Xbox One players had the most problems playing in the open beta period that we had that just passed. It seems like there was a lot of server issues. Players couldn't connect. It just seemed like a total mess. So they did just announce an open beta period. If you're listening to the show live, it's happening quite soon, January 23rd, tonight at 9 p.m. PST, and it runs for 24 hours. Runs until January 24th, sorry, the next day at 9 p.m. PST, and that's a pretty short beta, but all things considered, the game is coming out this Friday. It comes out 2 days after that beta period ends. So they're cutting it kind of fine, and they really did just announce. So I wonder how many people will actually have the time to get on and maybe download the client again, because they might have deleted it from the last open beta, and actually get into matches and play. Like, maybe I feel like Bandai Namco might have, should have message this out a bit earlier rather than so last minute, but who knows what's going on behind the scenes. I'm sure they're very busy, and I'm sure Arc System Works is just like super busy trying to tweak and polish the game. We don't know if there's going to be a day one patch for Dragon Ball FighterZ yet, so I mean, that's a possibility. That's not the first time that's happened. We know that Street Fighter V Arcade Edition had a day one patch when the game was released, so who knows. Lots of things to fix. Man, video games in this day and age, you can't just buy the game and like put it in your PS4 and play anymore. Like, you have to like patch it and download all these updates and things and make sure it's like the latest. It's crazy. What a time to be alive. But yes, Dragon Ball FighterZ open beta comes back tonight. If you have an Xbox One, you can check it out. For everyone else, the game comes out January 26th anyway, so it's not that much of a longer wait. But fingers crossed that the Xbox One players have their issues sorted, because rip them if not. In other news, Tekken Mobile pre-registration was announced last week. So if you don't know, Tekken Mobile, as the name suggests, is a Tekken game being released for mobile devices. It would be on the Apple Store and Google Play Store. People who are interested can pre-register, and if you choose to pre-register your interest in the game, you get exclusive rewards for those who do so. And the more people who register for this, the more rewards are doled out. So the last time I checked, and I'm just going to take a quick look now actually, but the last time I checked, they were onto the final tier, like they had hit the final tier. Oh, nope, it's almost there. They're at 96%. But so the first tier of rewards was unlocked with all the interest, First tier was like 10,000 coins, 100 gems. I'm assuming the gems are going to be like their in-game currency that people can buy to unlock other features or cosmetics or something. It is a mobile game. We know mobile games are like all about that, right? Like microtransactions. The second tier was a random 1-star character. That's interesting. I wonder what that means. 1-star character. XP booster, health pack, revive, team health pack. Okay, so just a whole bunch of what looks like microtransaction related things. And then the final tier is a secret character exclusive for Tekken Mobile. I wonder if that secret character is the one that we've been seeing in the trailers. There's like this dude who appears at the end of the Tekken Mobile trailer. If you haven't seen it, I will do my best to use my powers of description to just to paint a picture for you right now. He's like cloaked, wears what looks like some sort of gas mask. It obscures most of his face. And like he's wearing dark colors. I'm assuming, I say he, but I don't know. It could also be a she under all that. But I think I've seen the name Revenant floating around. I don't know if that's like officially what his name is, but yeah, Tekken Mobile, that's the thing. Honestly, the footage of the game that I've seen so far looks pretty impressive for a mobile game. Like, it looks really great. Of course, they're not the first to do this. Injustice last year was also released on mobile. But it seems like, people collect their characters and they have, like, stars that they can level them up with in the Tekken Mobile. You can upgrade them and then, like, customize them a bit. I feel like, the game's probably going to be a lot simpler, like mechanically simplified for the mobile, but still it's cool to see, like, if you feel like playing Tekken, you can get it on your mobile and like get your fix and play like on the run or on the go, wherever you want. So that's the thing, Tekken Mobile. So that game was announced in August last year. I think it's coming out soon. There's no like firm date from what I've seen, but it feels like it's going to come out soon. Finally, last piece of news we have, K-Brad has announced his signing to Ghost Gaming. Congratulations, K-Brad. That means, I suppose, Ghost Gaming is based in SoCal, so he's going to be coming back to SoCal, leaving NorCal, which is where EG was based. But interesting pickup from Ghost Gaming's point. I think this is their first FGC pickup. I do wonder if we're going to see more from them. I know that they have teams in other games. So they have a Counter-Strike team. They also have a PUBG team, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. So it seems like, and they had like a Call of Duty team that was like relatively successful as well. So it seems like they had a lot of players and teams in the shooter space. And this is probably their first foray into the fighting games community. So really interesting to see that. And of course, NuckleDu is still a free agent as well. And I would not be surprised if we see more player movement. We're at the beginning of the year. And like lots of announcements yet to come. That being said, Capcom Pro Tour, still no details from Capcom. I am gonna say we're probably not gonna hear anything for like at least 4 more weeks. I don't know, it's just a hunch, just a hunch. I think we're probably gonna get some news like late February, early March, which is kind of late. And I do wonder if they will like retroactively add tournaments, which is kind of dodgy. I'm not a big fan of when tournament organizers do that, to be honest. I think retroactively adding tournaments, it kind of defeats the purpose. But when you need, to add points, you got to do something. So I'm real curious to see what happens with CPT this year. I wonder if there will be any changes. I know last year they changed it up by getting rid of the auto qualification spots. So certain tournaments had, if, players won certain tournaments because they were deemed to be more difficult than others, then they would automatically qualify for Capcom Cup. But then it raises the question of, well, since they auto-qualified, I guess like they don't need to do anything for the rest of the year, right? Like if you auto-qualified for the first tournament in March, why bother attending anything else except Capcom Cup at the end of the year? So yeah, but that's it from me for today. That's all the news covered. We're going to be back after this break. You're listening to 1-2 Punch. Stay frosty. Hi everyone, I'm Zorine. Welcome back to 1-2 Punch. Half the fun of listening to these little like music transitions is trying to remember like where they're from. But I digress. Some news did just pop up while I was waiting. It seems that Arika, the developers of Fighting X Layer, also known as the developers of the Street Fighter EX series back in the 90s, have released a new trailer for a character that they're confirming returning. Cracker Jack is back. Oh my god, I didn't even intend to rhyme that. Cracker Jack is back, the bouncer turned bodyguard. He is back in the roster. They released a trailer, and it's funny because the trailer doesn't actually it seems that they haven't got a voice act for him yet, because a nice voiceover saying woo. In the Fighting X Layer roster, he made his first debut in Street Fighter EX, of course, for those who remember. And it's really cool just to see Arika still doing their thing. This game's really shaping up to be an interesting one. If you don't know much about it, I suggest you look it up. So Arika, they made this Street Fighter EX series, which is kind of tied to Street Fighter, but because of licensing issues, they can't actually include Street Fighter characters in their new game, which is called Fighting Layer. Fighting Layer X or Fighting Layer, I don't know. It just keeps on. Fighting X Layer. Sorry, I'm getting it completely mixed up. What a name. Fighting X Layer. So because of licensing issues, they can't actually include Street Fighter characters, but they've got their own original characters in Street Fighter X. Iconic characters like Skullomania and Darunda and, just like all these other characters like Crackerjack, Dr. Dark. I probably like butchered some names just then, but I apologize. So yes, they're still doing their thing, and they've released a new trailer for him. So way to go, Arika. Just to close out on the note, good luck to everyone traveling to Evo Japan, everyone competing there, and really looking forward to seeing the stream as well. So that will be live streamed on Twitch, twitch.tv/Evo. There will be English commentary confirmed. I'm your host, Zorine. If you have any questions for me, feel free to tweet at me. That's at Zorine at Esports Network. Esports, one word, no spaces, no caps or anything, and network. Again, no spaces, no hashtags, no like hyphens or anything. You can also just tweet with the hashtag 12punch or 12punch technically because of the numbers. But happy to have your feedback. We got more plans for the show. Hopefully we can take guests again soon. Fingers crossed no one cancels on us. If you have any questions, happy to answer them as well. We're here on a regular time slot on the Fantasy Radio Network every Tuesday at 7 p.m. PST or 10 p.m. for those of you on the East Coast. And you can also listen to us on Google Play, Spotify, or iTunes. We are coming to iHeart, I believe, on the iHeart app. You can listen to us live through there. Or you can watch this if you are so inclined on YouTube. For those watching, you can see me now making a peace sign. But thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Really appreciate the feedback and really appreciate what everyone has said. Hopefully we can bring more news to you. I know there's a lot of exciting things coming up in the next 2 weeks. So, remains to be seen what 2018 holds for the FGC. I'm Zorine. This is episode 3 of 1-2 Punch. Hopefully I'll see you all or hear you all next week. Bye.